Hello there, and welcome to Stranded Alien Dawn Starting Guide Part 1, The Starting Survivors. I had to break this into a number of parts because the whole thing was like an hour long. That's how much information that is relevant and stuff that you need to know if you want to get ahead at this game, right from the start until the end of the game, basically, or well, relatively close to it. But let's get started and get into it right now. So you're starting a new game, the basic standard new game. We have different scenarios you can choose from, but this scenario here is the one that we're going to focus on because it is the first one. You start off with nothing and you have to get your survivors off world. Now you start off with 4 survivors, and pretty soon you might find a random one might just show up at your camp, and then they'll have 5, and then you could do an expedition and maybe get a 6th or even a 7th if you're lucky. So yeah, the starting survivors is going to matter. Those are the first 4 you guys you can pick, but at the end of the day you're going to learn some technology that's going to allow you to summon some space shuttles and get some craft down there and pick up one of your survivors one at a time as you get attacked by hordes of wild animals on your base. So you have to defend your base and get those guys off slowly. That's the end of the game for the crash landing scenario. But let's get started. We're going to pick the starting region. Now the different regions on here you should know, since this is a starting guide. The swamp region is all about heat. There is no like cold temperature in there, so it's a little bit easier on the clothing, but you do have a swamp fever. You have different plants and different animals that are going to be in there also, but you know, they're relatively going to do the same thing as the other ones, like the other plants are going to be, but you know, it is just a different terrain, and it's also hot. And then you have the desert region, which is going to be like hot and cold like in the same day, because it gets very cold at night. So most of the time you're just going to be cold, because it seems to linger on a lot colder than you get into hot spells. But yeah, it's just all over the place on the temperature. So the basic one that you start off with is going to be that, the Sorbaris region. That's basically a standard region. It's got wintertime and summertime, so you have to worry about hot and cold, but it's not like everyday occurrence where it's fluctuating. So let's get into the main point of this, and that is going to be the survivors. Now you have a lot of survivors to choose from, and then it just picks a random guys in here, probably trying to balance out your little equation. So this little AI thing is trying to generate a balanced formula on here. That's what these little arrows indicate on your party. So if somebody in your party has combat here, somebody has construction this guy, somebody has farming this side, it's a well-balanced group. But yeah, we ignore this kind of stuff because we want survivors that are going to matter to us for the whole game, and at the start where it's really important to have something that's going to be really good and help you out. So you can go over here and look at the first thing you see here is indifferent and interested. Indifferent means they're going to learn those skills slowly, and they also don't like doing them. So if you put her on like a combat ability, like go tell her to go hunt or kill something, or even using a luxury device where you got to shoot stuff, she's not going to be happy about it, and she's going to lose I think it's like 18 happiness for that doing that activity. Relatively 18 is like an average number on losing and gaining stuff, but that's what you're going on with that stuff. So you want them to do stuff that they're interested in, and you can see that she's like interested in different all over the place. That's where she's going on her for her skills. But that's just something you want to look into. What your main goal is at the end of the game, you're going to be looking up for people that are interested in crafting, because you're going to find delivery drones, you're going to find bots, you're going to learn how to craft those construction bots and farming bots. They're going to go around there and they can do the construction, they can do the cooking, they can do the crafting, they can do they can do all the other physical stuff. They can do everything, but they can't craft and they can't do research. So they can't craft and do research. You're going to have like combat robots. You're going to have the mechs and turrets and battle drones and stuff like that. So all the combat skills aren't going to be that too important. But you're going to need to have some combat at the start of the game, because you have to fight off hordes of insects, and that's what happens every 3 days. You get attacked by bigger and bigger waves and harder waves of insects, and then in between that you can get attacked by a random hungry beast or angry beast or something like that too. So yeah, you're always going to be under a threat of attack, so having a combat skill is going to be important too. But just remember, having crafting interested is going to be a good thing at the end of the day for the different skills that you're going to have. Now what we're going to look at is the traits. The traits is what's going to define what these characters are, and why you're going to want them in this game. Like her trait of calming, it's nice to have. Keeping people happy is something you got to worry about in this game. But yeah, calming others, it's a nice thing to have. But yeah, it's not really going to be the best. That we're going to want at the end of the day. So yeah, she's not going to be the best. Just like this guy's not going to be the best. Oh, he learns skills twice as fast. That's nice, but he needs to relax twice as often. That's not really nice, and he needs more entertainment. So we don't want stuff like that. We don't want a negative that's going to cause him to take twice as long to do something that when he's not working. That's going to be detrimental to our goal skill of getting these workers to actually get stuff done, and for our projects and all that stuff that we want. So there's a lot of characters to go through. We don't need to go through all of them. Just know that there's usually two characters that will do the same thing. Like Avid Farmer, for example. There's going to be 2 guys that have that skill that they can plant and harvest seeds twice as fast. That might look like an awesome skill to have, and it's neat to have that for their farming skills and things like that. But you're going to have a robots later on that can do that for them. But so you have to be, watch out for that that kind of trap. This guy's good for like the second scenario because he's got that trading skill thing too. So I would go with him on that one there. Maybe you have to use him. I don't know for sure if you had to use him or not. I just used him. But anyways, let's go with what I think would be the most important characters to have and their traits and why. Since we're not going to go over through all of them, that would take way too long, and we're trying to cut this down there. But this guy Ken, he is like the best guy in the game in my opinion for basically everything going on there. He's got no indifferences, so he's not bad at anything. He has some zeros and some stuff, but yeah, he can learn how to do this stuff, and then he won't feel bad about doing it. He also gets happy by killing stuff on there. So yeah, if he kills stuff, he gets a happiness bonus. But yeah, his most important attribute there is going to be finding twice as much scrap when you're scavenging and going on expeditions with this guy. What you want to do is there's going to be crashed ships all over the place and wrecks, and you want to scavenge the crap out of that stuff. And getting twice as much scrap is going to help you out a lot because you're going to need a lot of that to build and smelt that down in the metals and use that in for your electronic components and stuff like that. So you need a lot of that stuff right there. And scrap can be used to build stuff too. So in case you're playing somewhere like on the desert, for example, where there is no abundance of trees and wood, you're going to have to build stuff out of scrap, and that's going to be a major guy to have. But the other thing that's going to make him important is that he's interested in crafting. So he's going to get a bonus on that and learn that a lot faster. He's also good at combat, and he's somebody that's going to be good at combat at the start of the game too. And at 6 is a very high stat to start with too. So you need someone with that, and he's got high physical. So 4 is really high to start with also. So he can carry a lot more stuff, and he's good at chopping stuff down. He's just pretty much good at everything. So he's even got some decent healing. So he's going to be like the highest level healer that I would recommend starting with is a 3 for yourself, which is pretty low. But yeah, he's got all this stuff covered for me. So that's how much value I put into finding scrap in this game. I'm having a guy dedicated to doing that. So you're going to get a lot of it, but you're going to use a lot of it. So I think he's worthwhile. Even though later on you're going to get bots that are going to scavenge stuff, but they're going to get only half as much on there. So yeah, and you can make them harvest faster by giving them tools also. So that is why he is there. But I guess arguably the more important trait that we're going to have is going to be somebody that can do the research on there. So we got 2 characters that have that genius bonus, and that bonus is like there's going to be lots of research. For example, it's going to take like 3 days and 5 days. When they get that insight, it's going to knock like a day off. That's that's roughly a rough estimate of how much time it gets knocked off. So yeah, as you can imagine, that's going to be a nice big boost to your progress on learning all the technology, and you have to learn that fast if you really want to get ahead in this game and have all the awesome stuff like drones, delivery drones, for example. That's the main goal you want to get to. That's the first thing you want to do is I want delivery drones so they can deliver everything, and my guys don't have to do that no more. So yeah, that's going to help you with that. But as I said, crafting is going to be what you're going to be doing after. Like after you've learned everything, what is she going to do? Nothing. Like she's got like a high intellect but no healing skill, and they go hand in hand basically. But yeah, she can do what? Well, a little bit of cooking, some farming, but she can't do any combat or physical. You have to teach her from nothing. So yeah, that's not really the best thing to do. And she's also she's a little bit slower at moving around too. So she's pretty much only good at learning stuff, and you basically only want somebody who's going to be learning stuff at the start of the game. But so she's okay, but I wouldn't recommend using her. I would go with this guy here instead. The other guy. This Daniel guy, he can't do any combat, but we really don't need him for combat anyways, but he can do other things, which is nice. He's interested in healing, so he is going to get a bonus from that, so he can be your go-to healer for other stuff because he's going to get a bonus for doing that. He also starts off with decent construction and crafting skills, so he can help you out with that kind of stuff also at the start. And at least he's not going to run in there into combat and get himself hurt on purpose. You're going to have somebody back there to heal you up there. But even though he has the lower intellect comparatively, he still gets that bonus, and that's what's more important. The bonus is more important than the actual intellect stat for researching that stuff on there. It's going to help out a little bit more on there. And he's going to get intelligent as he uses it more. So yeah, he's going to get smart pretty fast on there. So we definitely want somebody who can boost up that research, especially when when you start with nothing, and you have to get weapons built right away in this game, or you're going to be up shit creek if you get attacked by a swarm of 20 guys, and the only guy that has a weapon is Ken with the starting laser pistol. Nobody else has anything. You have to use your fists. That's going to suck. So you don't want that to happen. So after that, who are you going to pick next? What's going to help you out the most? And I would say for the short term and long term would be this guy right here, this Quinn guy. He's going to be my next go-to guy because his expert ability of Explorer is not too bad. They take half as much time to do that exploring and stuff, and he gets happiness bonus for doing it too. But having somebody doing that, and he also has permanently increased happiness, so that's going to be easier to manage him, right? So he's going to be easier to manage, and you want that. He does have that indifferent on combat, and it starts off at 0, so that's a big negative for him for having that combat skill that low. But you can train him up there and force him to do it, obviously. But so at least he can learn it, even though he starts off with crap. But his construction skill is very high, so he's going to be very good at getting that construction stuff right there. And he's also interested in intellect. And you don't have to have just one guy researching stuff. You can build 2 research benches or even more, and have multiple people researching stuff to make it go faster. So if you got nothing else to do, you can always stick him on research also. But at the start of the game, you have to go there and scout out everything. You see all these animals and all of these plants, you have to go there and observe them all so you can actually farm them up there. So if you want to be able to grow your own trees, grow your own bushes, and grow your own harvesting crops, you're going to have to go there and scout them out there. You want this guy on research the full time, so you need somebody else out there who's going to be interested in that and smart to go out there and do that. So at the start of the game, his main job is going to be out there and scout out and observe all these different items that you can see around you so you can learn how to do that stuff. So he's really good at that, and he can start building all your stuff too right away. So he's got that stuff covered. And then he's also got crafting, which is also important too. So he starts off with a high bonus on there. I usually have him ending up crafting, and he's the first guy that gets 10 in crafting right away on for his skills. And then you send him out on expeditions. They take less time. You get your other characters. You unlock different areas and get new technologies and new feats that are opened up for yourself. So yeah, that's why I use him. Now the next guy is going to be arguably anybody you pretty much feel like it, because you got most of the stats covered right here. You can see we got combat, we got construction, we got pretty low stats on cooking and farming, but you don't need to be smart to do any of those in this game. But we can try and fill those in if we want to for our next guy. So sometimes I was going with the farming guys, but then later on I found out that they weren't really that great at the end of the game, and they weren't helping out as much. Some of the other guys can be decent too, like she might be indifferent in a lot of stuff, but she does increase the crafting skills of others, so that's not too bad. And she gets happy when she watches Ken kill stuff, because it's Ken's grandmother. So yeah, we have that stuff going on for her. But I would recommend going on with this girl right here. So I would pick her for the fourth guy for yourself. She has permanently increased happiness, so easy to take care of her, and she makes the simplest dishes taste better. That means whenever she cooks, everybody who eats it gets a happiness bonus of it's just a +6 bonus, but it's still better than not having any bonus whatsoever. And she's interested in cooking, so you're going to need somebody at full-time cooking, or they're just going to be eating emergency rations or eating crappy food from somebody who sucks at cooking. Now she's going to be fast at it. She starts off with a 5, and that ups your cooking thing there. She's also decent at farming, so that balances out the rest of your team here nicely too. And it gives you a buff that you're going to be using the whole game. You're going to be getting that, like I said, you're going to be getting a 5th survivor easily, and probably a 6th one not too in a short amount of time. So yeah, you're going to have more people to feed, and having them getting an extra buff is going to be nice for yourself. And you're not going to notice the buffs right away, because they get a big huge bonus when you first land for the first week of play or so, but after that buff is gone, and then that 6th buff is going to start looking good for yourself later on, and you're going to have that whenever they eat. So that's why I like to use her, because that extra buff right there is nice. But you can go ahead and pick any other guys you want. There's another guy that will train other people in combat skills, which is nice to have, but like I said, you're going to go for a mech and battle drone, so you're not going to need these guys at the end of the game. But shooting twice as fast is going to be handy too. Just go ahead and look through these guys and pick what their stats are, and remember, you want the stats, the traits that are going to be useful at the end of the game. So if this guy, so if somebody says indifferent on crafting, you don't really want them, even though if their skills are pretty good. And if you see something this guy's got a chance to kill, hunt prey, well, that doesn't matter. Who cares about that? That's not going to help you out at all. Learning the skills faster, well, everybody's going to learn their skills up eventually anyways, so that's not going to help you out. And then he has a negative. So that's what you want to look through. If you see any negatives, don't bother with them. Like this guy here. This guy's like an awesome all-around guy. He's got like nothing else besides combat instructor. So if you're looking for like another combat guy instead of her, like she's got a little bit of combat, but if you want a stronger combat guy, go ahead and take this guy here, because will get to improve everybody else's combat skills for you. And he's interested in crafting. So yeah, he's got that too. And he's got, everything else is pretty much average and good for his physical and combat skills. So he can do like everything for himself. And like farming is easy to learn. You do it enough. So yeah, he can do all this stuff and he can do whatever. So he's not a bad choice if you want to worry about combat skills for your guys. Or you can have a dedicated healer for yourself for that kind of thing. She can't fail medical treatments, hungry twice as slow. That's always good to have, right? That's just double the boss, but she can't really do much of anything else on there. She's got like lots of zeros going on there, but if you feel like having her for the extra cook and healer, go ahead. If you want to worry about that, then yeah, it's going to be your choice. But this is what I would recommend. Okay, and that would be it. I think you can go there and you can read all these things and see them for yourself and see what they're good. Like if you're going to go for like the jungle planet, for example, where there's just a ton of wood and you're going to build everything out of wood, and you want this guy here for his 4 times the speed at constructing stuff, if that's going to matter. But he moves a lot slower. He's also interested in crafting, so you can't go wrong with that. But his combat is 0, so yeah, it's just some of the skills might look awesome, but at the end, when you don't want to actually build anything out of wood because it's weak and you want something better, then he becomes useless. So you want people that are going to have permanent effects. You're always going to go on expeditions, so these guys are still always going to be useful, and you're always going to be scavenging stuff because that's where you can get the best stuff in this game, especially the combat mech cores. You want those, and they're very rare to get, and you get those off scavenging. Well, anybody can scavenge, but at least you're getting more metal to build stuff while you're at it. Doing it. So you get an extra bird with that, and you're always going to need the food buff, and this guy's going to be awesome until you're done researching everything, and then he can still do stuff. He still has a point, like he can still help you out with the crafting and the cooking and whatever else, construction, whatever else. He can just help you out in general, as a general worker, basically, doing whatever you need then for yourself. So that's not all bad on your choices. So there you have it. That is the end of part 1. Part 2 is we're going to use these survivors, land on our planet, and I'll show you the priorities on what you're going to have to do, because that is really going to matter. The first stages, you're going to go in there and like pause the game, and then there's a whole bunch of shit you're going to have to learn, just like I told you all the shit on here and why, to teach you about this stuff, so you learn what's going to be good and what's going to be bad, and then make your own opinion on the guys you want to use, because you don't have to just use all these guys if you don't want to, right? You might not want to have the cook. You might want to do something else and focus on something else. But at least you're going to know that some of the guys are not going to be worth it at the end of the day, even though they might look good at the start. So hopefully you learn that information. So if you like this information and you really want to know what you got to do when you first start the game, go ahead and watch part 2, because that's where it really gets started. And this stuff is basically relative at the end of the day. But we know we're covering our bases in there. And I think everything is at least 3 or higher for all our skills, and they all have good skills, and they all have easy happiness stuff on there, so that's nice. She's permanently happy. He's permanently happy, extra happy. He gets happy by just going out there and killing stuff randomly, which is nice. And you're gonna have some farming guys who make him slaughter your cows for you. Oh, I love doing that. Yeah, you get pets in there, and he's happy with one of his pets. Do you make him kill him? Oh no, he killed his pet. He's unhappy, but you like killing him at least. So it evens out, as you might think. But this guy's just all around not too happy in general. But at least he's not too he's not too happy or not too sad. But he can't fight, but he can do everything else and learn stuff fast, and he's not annoying. So there you go. That is that, and yeah, I'll see you in part 2.